Real Madrid to sign Inter Milan star. Barcelona preparing a mega swap player with Chelsea, Alphonso Davies choosing a club from England, and Amorim's first clear-out at Manchester United. All this and much more in today's episode. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Manchester United is gearing up for a fire sale. 3 players are on their way out in the January transfer window: Rashford, Eriksen and Antony. It's like a bolt from the blue. And while questions about Marcus and Christian have been swirling in the air for a while, the news about the potential departure of the Brazilian, well, it's something else. Yes, that very same Antony who, love him or hate him, has managed to etch his name into Old Trafford history. You could even say he's a legend of Manchester United. It will be sad to say goodbye to Antony. And don't try to deny it. Remember his first few matches. Those sparks of Brazilian magic, albeit rare. Ah, those were the days. But as they say, you can't command the heart, and certainly not the wallet. The Red Devils desperately need to trim their wage bill, and selling Antony is like a breath of fresh air for the accounting department. And for the winger himself, it seems he really needs a reboot. A new challenge, a new league, where the burden of expectations won't weigh him down so heavily. A less demanding league, Ligue 1. Why not? Look at Depay, he took a gamble back in the day, and it seems to have paid off. Can Antony pull off the same trick? Only time will tell. But why sell Eriksen in the winter? I'll be damned if I understand. What's the logic? In the summer, he'll leave for free, like a bird taking flight. In the winter, they can get peanuts, crumbs, and even that's not guaranteed, that someone will shell out for an aging playmaker in the middle of the season. And this is despite the fact that United's injury list looks like a battlefield after a bombing raid. What if he's still needed? What if his passes become the key to victories in the second half of the season? It's baffling, honestly. Rashford, that's a more complicated situation. £40 million, that's the price tag on the inconsistent Marcus, according to the Daily Mail. And it's not just about his rollercoaster performances on the pitch. It's also about those notorious financial fair play rules that are strangling the Red Devils. £300 million in losses over 3 years. It's not about luxury, it's about survival. Although, it would be quite amusing if both Manchester Giants ended up getting slapped on the wrist for these financial games. As they say, don't dig a pit for someone else. And remember that story about training? Rashford got offended by Steve McLaren's attempt to encourage him. Now that's a twist. The man is trying to motivate him, saying he's capable of great things, and the response is, don't pressure me. The entire coaching staff probably lost the power of speech after that reaction. What is it? Star syndrome? Fatigue? Apathy? It's beyond comprehension. They say that PSG, Barcelona and Bayern Munich are lining up for him. And the Saudis, of course, where would we be without them? I wouldn't be surprised if the sheiks fork out a hefty sum and take Marcus to their shores. Who else would risk paying him £300,000 a week with his current form? It's a rhetorical question, of course. 40 million. And United is ready to let him go. Like tearing him away from their hearts, probably. Or not. More like getting rid of dead weight. And don't start singing songs about how this money will be used to strengthen the squad. Most likely, it will be used to patch up the holes in the budget. And this information about 5 potential replacements for Rashford, it's like the final nail in the coffin. It seems Marcus's days at Old Trafford are numbered. And yet, he was once a fan favourite, one of their own, an academy product, a Mancunian through and through. He loved the club, fought for the badge, and now, a shadow. Just a shadow of the former Rashford. He seems afraid of the ball, doesn't want to receive it. Confidence? What confidence? It's been blown away by the wind. Have you heard the groans at Old Trafford when he gets the ball? It wasn't your imagination. The fans, having drunk the bitter cup of disappointment, have already given up on him. And that hits him undoubtedly. It pushes him even deeper into this negative spiral. Maybe, just maybe, a move is a chance for him. A fresh start, like a breath of fresh air. He needs to sort himself out, get his thoughts in order, fix what's happening off the pitch. He has the potential. The spark is still flickering somewhere in there. It just needs to be fanned. What will happen next? Who knows? Will Antony go to League One for a new dose of inspiration? Will Eriksen save United from crisis by staying until the end of the season? And where will Marcus Rashford ultimately end up? In the warm sands of Saudi Arabia or under the scorching sun of Spain? Time will tell. But for now, leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about this whole circus? Do you agree with the sales? Who would you keep and who would you send into exile? Share your opinions, and let's argue. In the best tradition of chasing a pie in the sky, Barcelona has set its sights on the sacred, on Enzo Fernandez himself from Chelsea. And how did they set their sights? With a grand gesture, no less, they're offering, believe it or not, 2 players in exchange: Ferran Torres and Frenkie de Jong. I mean, I understand Barça, financial difficulties, the whole deal. But this isn't just saving money. It's like some kind of football AliExpress, where they're trying to trade a top-of-the-line iPhone for 2 old Androids. Chelsea, of course, are no fools, and they're unlikely to be eager to part with their Argentine star, who's only just begun to hit his stride in the Premier League. But Barcelona, apparently, isn't deterred. You can't fault their persistence, that's for sure. And so, sporting director Deco, presumably with eyes burning with ambition, rolls out this genius offer: 2 players in exchange for Fernandez. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, of course. De Jong is a solid player, Torres is a guy with potential. But, let's be honest, they're not currently the caliber of players that would make Chelsea even consider such a deal. If rumours are to be believed, Chelsea won't even talk about Fernandez for less than the £107 million they paid Benfica for him. And Barcelona, as we know, is in a tight spot financially. Hence this strange, even comical, plan with the exchange. As if you can just exchange a world-class talent for promising, but so far inconsistent, players. The Spanish media is already trumpeting this, saying that Deco offered. It sounds like he went to his neighbour to borrow some salt and offered him his old sneakers in return. That's probably how Chelsea viewed this proposal. Fernandez, of course, is a talented guy, that's a fact. He scores goals, provides assists, and is generally a great player. But he's only just started to gain momentum at Chelsea, only just become a key player. And then, bam, Barcelona comes along with its generous offer. And the news itself hints at the Catalans' hope that Chelsea will suddenly agree to this unequal exchange in order to get Fernandez much cheaper or practically for free. Well, that's just fantasy, guys. Barcelona's interest is understandable. They need a central midfielder like they need air. De Jong's future is uncertain, and they see Fernandez as the ideal replacement. But the methods, this is starting to smell like a desperate gamble. To offer 2 players, albeit good ones, but not untouchable, in exchange for one of Chelsea's leaders, that's, bold. Very bold. On the verge of madness. And it would be one thing if Fernandez was really struggling at Chelsea. But he's not. The guy has settled in, started playing well, and become an important part of the team. And then Barcelona appears with its offer, which, frankly, seems more like a prank than a serious transfer initiative. So here's the picture. Barcelona, mired in financial problems, is trying to pull off the deal of the century by offering Chelsea players who, according to rumours, they themselves aren't particularly keen on keeping. And Chelsea, looking at this, is probably, at best, shrugging its shoulders and at worst, openly laughing. And what's the result? Convincing Chelsea will be extremely difficult. They see Fernandez as a long-term project, a cornerstone of their team, and letting him go for such a dubious package is simply illogical. Although anything can happen in football, of course, but honestly, it's hard to believe in such an outcome. Very hard. Barcelona is wary of overspending, that's understandable. But guys, sometimes penny-wise is pound foolish, and this attempt to save money by making an exchange could end up being a complete flop. And instead of a top midfielder in the centre of the field, they'll be left with the same old questions and searches. Acquiring Fernandez would, of course, be a huge boost for Barça, but for now, it all seems more like a pipe dream than reality. Will Barcelona be able to surprise everyone and pull off this seemingly impossible deal? Or will it remain just a bedtime story for the Blaugrana fans? But for now, honestly, the chances of that, in my opinion, are not very high. What do you think? Share your opinion in the comments. I'm interested to hear your point of view. Real Madrid has its eye on Marcus Thuram, and not just a passing glance, but, according to rumours, they see him as the ideal player to cement their future attacking force. A force that already boasts the looming shadows of Mbappé, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. Doesn't that sound sweet? The guy is lighting up Serie A like a Christmas tree, 10 goals in 15 matches. Even the most demanding scout would be licking their lips in delight. It's no wonder that a queue of top clubs has formed, with Barcelona and Liverpool hot on Los Blancos' heels. The transfer window hasn't even opened, and the passions are already boiling over. The perfect link-up player. That's how they describe Thuram. And you know what? It's hard to disagree. He's not just a goal scorer, he can pass, make runs, create space. He's that missing puzzle piece that could transform Madrid's attack into a well-oiled machine, a symphony of attacking power. But here comes the snag, an €85 million release clause. That's the stumbling block. It's a hefty figure for sure. It's enough to make even Florentino Perez, who's seen it all and seemingly wouldn't flinch at any sum, think twice. Could Real really back down? Could they miss out on such a juicy prospect because of a few measly millions? It's hard to believe. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that other top clubs are also drooling over Thuram. Barcelona, their eternal rivals, surely won't want to concede such a player to Los Merengues without a fight. And Liverpool, with their bloodthirsty attacking football, also see Thuram as a reinforcement for their front line. So, the battle for the Frenchman promises to be a fierce one. And this is where it gets really interesting. Real will have to go all in. Either they put the full buyout amount on the table, or they hope that their competitors will show some restraint and not outbid them. Or they'll have to persuade Thuram himself, offering him conditions he can't refuse. Salary, prospects, the chance to play alongside the best. Madrid has plenty of arguments in their favour. And what about Inter? The guys from Milan aren't exactly thrilled about parting ways with their star. And why would they be? The guy arrived on a free transfer and immediately became one of the team's leaders. But football is a business, and when a substantial sum is on the horizon, it can be hard to resist. Their position is understandable. You want Thuram? Pay the full price. No discounts, no compromises. Harsh but fair. Of course, €85 million is a serious investment. Real will have to carefully weigh all the pros and cons. Would it be too high a price for a player, even a talented one? Will he fit into Ancelotti's tactical schemes? Will his arrival overshadow other attacking stars? There are many questions, and the Royal Club's management will have to find the answers. But you know what? You sit and think. You really want it. You really want to see Thuram in the white shirt of Real Madrid. You want to see how he'll link up with Mbappé, how they'll tear apart opposing defenses together. You want this new era of attacking might that the fans are dreaming of. And to hell with those millions. When it comes to players like this, when it comes to the future of the club, money takes a back seat. The main thing is the result. The main thing is victories. The main thing is the emotions that football gives us. And Thuram, it seems, is a guy capable of delivering those emotions in abundance. So, Florentino, don't hesitate. Get out your checkbook and seal the deal. Real Madrid fans are waiting for a miracle. And honestly, so am I. How will this transfer saga end? We'll find out soon enough. But for now, we're waiting for news like manna from heaven and wondering, will we see Thuram at the Bernabeu next season? Share your thoughts, gentlemen. What do you think of this potential new signing for Real Madrid? Your bets, opinions, predictions, bring them all here. Let's discuss. Manchester City has set its sights on Real Sociedad's jewel, Martin Zubimendi, and is prepared to lock horns with none other than Liverpool for his signature. And this isn't just idle transfer gossip, it's apparently the final mission of Txiki Begiristain, City's director of football, before he rides off into the sunset. Could he be looking to go out with a bang, leaving behind a legacy in the form of one of the best defensive midfielders on the planet? The situation is, shall we say, quite spicy. City understands that Premier League clubs, smelling the big money from the sheikhs, will slap a price tag on their talents that would make even the seasoned Begiristain's hair stand on end. That's why they've decided to cast their gaze beyond the foggy Albion towards sunny Spain, and their choice has landed on Zubimendi, whom Luis de la Fuente himself has christened one of the best central midfielders in the world. Not bad, eh? His release clause stands at £50 million. For City, it's not exactly pocket change, but it's not something that will stop their financial juggernaut. But there's a catch, and its name is Rodri. Imagine yourself in Zubimendi's shoes. You're a star, one of the leaders of your club, praised and admired, and then you're offered the chance to warm the bench behind Rodri, who, let's face it, is an absolute monster in the holding midfield role. Not the most enticing prospect, wouldn't you agree? Zubimendi himself, according to rumours, isn't thrilled with the idea of moving to Manchester under these conditions. So what's the deal? Are the citizens digging their own grave, clearing the path for Liverpool? After all, Arne Slot won't miss his chance to strengthen the midfield, especially considering that after Rodri's injury, City has a noticeable gap. However, things aren't all rosy at Anfield either. Gravenberch and McAllister are certainly talented lads, but who knows, maybe even there, Zubimendi will run into the fact that there will be no place in the starting lineup. Apparently, Zubimendi, who signed a new contract with Sociedad in the summer, has changed his mind. January is just around the corner, and the guy, judging by the news, is ready for a change. City, in turn, is ready to act decisively. And now, for the most interesting part, Guardiola, according to rumours, is planning a grand squad overhaul. This means that some of City's current stars could find themselves out in the cold. Could Rodri himself be caught in the crossfire? Is Pep cooking up some cunning scheme in which Zubimendi will be a key element? Or is he simply looking for a worthy replacement for Rodri? And could anything persuade the Spaniard if he's set on leaving precisely because of the competition with his compatriot? The transfer window is about to swing open, and a real show awaits us. City, Liverpool, Zubimendi, Rodri, Begiristain, Guardiola, they are all players in this exciting drama. Who will emerge victorious? Who will be left empty-handed? Who will outsmart whom? One thing is clear, January is going to be hot. What do you think will be the outcome of this transfer saga? Will City be able to get the Basque talent, or will the Reds prove to be more agile? Write in the comments, share your predictions, and like. Let's follow the development of events together. While the Red Devils are huffing and puffing, trying to lure just about anyone, Liverpool seems to be hunting for a real prize, Alphonso Davies. And guess what? Manchester United is, to put it mildly, out of the picture. It seems even Davies himself isn't keen on diving into the swamp of instability that is Old Trafford. And who would have thought, considering he was recently linked with a move there? 24 years old, in the prime of his career, captain of the Canadian national team. He's a real gem of a player. And this very player, whose contract with Bayern Munich is about to expire, is once again showing his class. Have you seen him tearing down the wing? He's like a rocket. Vincent Kompany seems to have found the key player for his confidently leading Bayern. The Munich side, of course, doesn't want to lose such a star and is trying to persuade him to sign a new contract. But the clock is ticking. Less than 3 weeks until Alphonso can negotiate with anyone he wants. And then comes the information, like a kick in the, well, you get the idea. Davies isn't particularly fond of Old Trafford. The constant changes, the lack of Champions League football. Who would want to trade one problem for another? But Anfield, that's a different story. If he's packing his bags for England, it's most likely to the red side of Merseyside. And you know what? I understand him. Liverpool, that's history, that's passion, that's a team on the rise. Unlike, well, you know. United, of course, tried to make a move, but according to rumours, the atmosphere there isn't exactly rosy. And the budget, they say, is tight. Even if Davies comes as a free agent, his salary will cost a pretty penny. In short, the Red Devils seem to be struggling to survive, let alone splurge on big names, but Liverpool, that's a different story. Their scouts are constantly watching Davies, and apparently the interest is very real, even though they try to hide it. Intriguing, isn't it? And here we come to the most interesting part. Robertson, of course, is a legend, a fighter, but time takes its toll. 30 years old is already a veteran by football standards. And, let's be honest, mistakes have started to creep into his game more often. He gives away penalties, it happens. Liverpool clearly needs a breath of fresh air on the left flank of their defence. And Davies fits in perfectly. Young, fast, with a winning experience, a real find. And signing him as early as next month is quite realistic. So one option is off the table for Davies. And Real Madrid, who previously seemed to be the main contender, have somewhat cooled their interest. And now Arne Slot's Liverpool is looming on the horizon. Of course, some difficult decisions will have to be made. What to do with Robertson? After all, Davies is not the type of player who will sit on the bench. He's used to being a leader, a key player. Competition is good, of course, but the Canadian captain is unlikely to be happy with a substitute role. There's a real dilemma. Real Madrid and Manchester United are out of the race, and Liverpool, they're in the driver's seat, the most likely Premier League destination for the Canadian star. A free transfer of this level is a gift from the gods. But that's where the catch is. Every top club in Europe will want such a player, and Bayern, of course, will fight tooth and nail to keep their diamond. So the battle for Davies is just beginning. And how will it all end? We'll soon find out. Newcastle has set its sights on Barcelona defender Andreas Christensen. Not bad, huh? After a phenomenal last season under Saudi ownership, when the Magpies soared into the top 4, their appetite, as we can see, is only growing. But here's the problem. The Black and White's defense isn't without its flaws, and strengthening it would be very beneficial. And then, like a bolt from the blue, news from Spain. Newcastle, it's said, has already set its sights on Christensen and is ready to shell out 30 million euros. They're offering Barca 20 million up front for the Dane, with another 10 million in add-ons. Not a bad deal, considering Andreas has a contract at Camp Nou until 2026, but it seems no one is planning to extend it. As you know, Barca is currently forced to count every penny to avoid falling into a financial hole and is ready to sell off its players. Christensen, alas, is on that list. And do you know who else has their eye on this guy? Manchester United. Yes, those very Red Devils who have long been drooling over the Danish defender. But they seem to have other priorities right now. They're looking for a left-back. Newcastle, on the other hand, desperately needs a centre-back. In the summer, they were already snubbed by Crystal Palace's Mark Guehi, and Christensen could be an excellent alternative. 30 million for a player of this caliber? That's practically a steal. If he's in form, of course. Eddie Howe recently added fuel to the fire. He said he couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't have to sell someone in January to avoid sanctions for violating financial fair play rules. Do you see what he's getting at? Barca clearly won't want to lose Christensen for free, so they need to sell him now. And Newcastle, apparently, is already in full swing with negotiations. But can they pull off the deal? They have the money. Tyneside is now one of the richest clubs in the world. But football is an unpredictable thing. Admittedly, Newcastle's defense has looked far from rock solid lately. So strengthening the defense is not just a whim, but an urgent need. If the Magpies are serious about European competition, they can't do without quality signings. And here, Christensen is just a godsend. He's already shown in the Premier League for Chelsea he won't need to adapt. He'll be able to hit the ground running. And his versatility? He can play in the center of defense and in defensive midfield if needed. A real joker. Just the perfect acquisition for the Black and Whites if, of course, they can get him. But let's not forget about Manchester United. They also need to strengthen their defense. This season, their backline has been leaking like a sieve, and 30 million is not such a big problem for them. And in terms of influence, they are, let's face it, bigger than Newcastle. Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, every footballer's dream. Christensen will surely be flattered by such an option. So what will the player himself choose? Return to the Premier League, where he was already established, or will he remain loyal to Barca? Despite all the transfer rumours, Newcastle and Manchester United are both clubs with ambition, with big plans, with money. Who to root for in this race? Who will Christensen himself be rooting for? The plot twists could be anything. Intrigue, my friends, intrigue. And what do you think? Where will the Danish defender end up? Will Barca resist the temptation? Which of the Premier League clubs is more deserving of signing Andreas? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss.